All right, I'm here with Steve Ranger, and we just exited Dreamforce, and Salesforce's big idea was Customer 360, which is this concept that you basically take a bunch of systems, put them together, and you have this one magical view of the customer again. The problem with this idea is that we've heard this before, probably half a dozen times in the last decade or so. So, Steve, why doesn't every customer have this, or why doesn't every company have this customer service focus?
Yeah, I mean, it seems weird, right? Because surely every company should be absolutely focused on its customers, because that's where its business comes from. If the customer is getting ignored, then a business is probably doing its job badly. But actually, the reality is the customers get ignored all the time, because half the time it's really hard to work out who the customer is. Is it the person who buys your product? Is it your internal customer? Is it your boss? Is it accounts because they're always on at you to get the invoices in? You know, actually, it's in modern business, it's actually quite hard to work out who the customer is, because you have all these different priorities. And I think inside a whole bunch of businesses, that gets forgotten. The customer gets forgotten, the real customer, the one who's buying the product or actually providing your revenue. And you just kind of like get lost into all these other customers and stakeholders. Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea, and it's the fact that we have to kind of go through this again and kind of explain that maybe people should be paying attention to their customers just shows that a lot of companies just don't pay that much attention to the things they really should.
Yeah, for me, I mean, my rant is, when you think about it, Amazon's known for focusing on the customer, Salesforce too, I guess. But really, it's a very short list. And I think you're right. Defining who that customer is has become increasingly tricky. My other part of this that kind of winds me up is that every company thinks technology is somehow going to fix this. Now it's great for Salesforce, Oracle, SAP, go down the list of people. It's fine for them because they get to sell you stuff. But I'm not sure technology is the biggest part of this issue. I just think it's more of a cultural thing. It's more of, it depends on your boss, like you said. Yeah, it's just murky.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy, really, that clearly these tech companies think this is a selling point for their products, because you'd have thought that everyone would always put the customer at the center of things. But so the fact that they're making this kind of sale is that it just shows how kind of out of whack so many companies have got, that Amazon can make a big deal of the fact that it is customer centric. It's like, well, what's everyone else doing? Why are they not customer centric? What are they focusing on instead? It is a weird thing, and you're absolutely right. It's a cultural issue, because I guess in some organizations, well, focusing on the customers is good, but maybe focusing on what your boss wants you to do is better in terms of your kind of like, in terms of your career in the short term. And actually that kind of focus gets skewed all over the way. And maybe technology is a good way of focusing people back onto the customer, because it's one way of fixing a process is to kind of like digitize it and say, well, everything does have to lead down to the customer, rather than lead over to wherever else, to sales, to marketing, whoever else is kind of like making the biggest noise. Maybe using technology is actually just a valid way of kind of fixing this problem. It's a kind of crazy one in some respects, but maybe that's what people, some organizations are going to need.
Yeah, I think technology can help in a way that the way these companies are, they're built by acquisition, mergers, they've got all these different systems. So, it sounds almost absurd that one customer record would be such a big deal, but it might be able to help with things. But my guess is we'll be hearing this customer-centric pitch in about 4 years when none of this works again. Because I don't think tech vendors can really say, hey, your culture is a mess. Because that doesn't really sell things. So. No.
But actually, for some organizations, maybe it's a good way of fixing the problem, is to say, well, we have this new technology, which means we have to change things. When pushing cultural change inside any organization is really hard. If you can use the technology as kind of an excuse to change the culture, then maybe that's actually enough of a benefit to make these projects worthwhile.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Thanks for joining us, Steve.